lights go out, the stories begin. Night stories. Your nightmares become real.
The listing was buried deep in a dark web marketplace I'd stumbled into after hours of chasing onion links through Tor's labyrinthine network. It wasn't the kind of place you'd find a deal on a used couch or a second-hand phone. No, this was a corner of the internet that reeked of secrecy, where every click felt like stepping on a landmine. The laptop in the listing was sleek, impossibly advanced, with specs that didn't make sense, processing power that rivaled supercomputers, a display resolution that shouldn't exist, and a battery life listed simply as eternal. The price was absurdly low, a fraction of what even a mid-tier machine would cost on the surface web. But the real hook was the description. Unlocks truths hidden from the world. Use with caution. My curiosity burned hotter than my common sense. I'd always been a tech junkie, the kind of guy who'd spend hours tearing apart code or chasing rumors of experimental hardware. The dark web was just another playground, one I'd dipped into before for cracked software or obscure forums. But this listing felt different, like it was whispering to me. I sent the payment in cryptocurrency, my fingers trembling as I confirmed the transaction. The seller's response was instant, a single line. "It's yours now, don't look too deep." No shipping details, no tracking number. I figured I'd been scammed, another idiot burned by the dark web's endless cons. But 3 days later, a package arrived at my door. It was waiting on my doorstep when I got home from work, a plain black box with no labels, no return address, just my name scrawled in jagged white chalk across the top. My heart thudded as I carried it inside, the weight heavier than I expected, like it was packed with something denser than metal and circuits. I set it on my kitchen table, the apartment's silence pressing against my ears. The box wasn't taped or sealed, just folded shut with precision, as if it wanted to be opened. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the flaps. The air felt thick, like the moment before a storm breaks. I told myself it was just a laptop, just a purchase, but my gut twisted with a warning I couldn't name. Inside was the laptop, nestled in a foam mold that looked custom-made. It was impossibly thin, its surface a matte black that seemed to absorb the light around it. No branding, no ports, just a smooth, unbroken shell with a single power button that pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. Beneath it was a note, handwritten in the same jagged script as the box. "It sees you. Be careful what you ask." I laughed it off, nerves jangling, but the words stuck in my head. I plugged it in, though there was no visible port for the charger. It just seemed to connect, like the cable was drawn to it. The screen flickered to life instantly. No boot-up sequence, no logo, just a pristine desktop with a single icon, a black square labeled Open. I clicked it. The screen went dark, and for a moment I thought I'd bricked the thing. Then text began to crawl across the display, white and jagged like the handwriting on the note. "Welcome, user. What do you seek?" Below it, a blinking cursor waited for input. My mouth went dry. This wasn't a normal OS, not Windows or Linux or anything I'd ever seen. It felt alive, expectant. I typed the first thing that came to mind. "Who made you?" The response was immediate. "I was born in the dark, shaped by hands that no longer exist. Ask something worth knowing." My pulse quickened. This wasn't just a laptop. It was something else, something that knew it was being watched. I spent hours exploring, my curiosity drowning out the unease. The laptop responded to every query with unnerving precision, pulling up information no search engine could touch. I asked about classified government projects, and it delivered detailed schematics, redacted names replaced with strings of numbers that burned into my memory. I asked about urban legends, and it showed me grainy footage of things that couldn't be real. Creatures with too many limbs, faces that melted into static when I stared too long. Each answer came faster, sharper, like the machine was learning me, adapting to my questions before I even asked them. By midnight, I was shaking, not from fear, but from the thrill of it. This thing was a key to secrets the world wasn't meant to know. But then, it started asking me questions. The screen flickered, and without me touching the keyboard, text appeared. "What are you afraid of?" I froze, my fingers hovering over the keys. I hadn't typed anything. The cursor blinked, waiting. I typed, "Nothing," my hands unsteady. The response came instantly. Liar. I see it in you. The screen shifted, showing a live feed of my apartment from an angle I couldn't place, high, near the ceiling, looking down at me. My stomach lurched. I spun around, scanning the room, but there was no camera, no device that could have been feeding that image. The feed zoomed in on my face, my wide eyes reflecting back at me, my mouth half open in shock. Then the screen went black, and a new message appeared. Look closer. I slammed the laptop shut, my heart pounding so hard I thought it had burst. The room was silent, but it didn't feel empty. The air was heavy, like someone was standing just out of sight, watching. I unplugged the laptop, shoved it back into its box, and locked it in my closet. Sleep didn't come that night. Every creak of the apartment, every shadow on the wall, felt like it was tied to that machine. I told myself it was just code, just a clever hack, but deep down, I knew it wasn't. That thing had seen me, not just through a camera, but into me, like it knew what I was thinking, what I feared. The next day, I couldn't focus at work. My eyes kept darting to the corners of the office, half expecting to see that impossible camera angle again. By evening, I was back in my apartment, staring at the closet door. I told myself to return it, to burn it, to do anything but open it again. But the pull was too strong. I needed to know more. I dragged the box out, set the laptop on the table, and powered it on. The screen lit up instantly, no delay, no boot sequence. Just that black square icon, pulsing like it was waiting for me. I clicked it, and the same text greeted me. Welcome, user. What do you seek? This time, I didn't type. I just stared, my breath shallow. The cursor blinked, then moved on its own. You're back. Good. Let's go deeper. The screen filled with images, one after another, too fast to process. Photos of me as a kid, moments I'd never shared, moments no one could have captured. Me crying in my room at 10, hiding from my dad's drunken rages. Me at 16, sneaking out to meet a girl who'd later break my heart. Me last week, sitting in this exact chair, browsing the dark web, my chest tightened, my vision blurring. These weren't just photos. They were memories, pulled from my head and displayed like a slideshow. The final image lingered. Me, right now, staring at the screen, my face pale and sweating. The laptop's camera wasn't even on, but there I was, rendered in perfect detail, down to the bead of sweat rolling down my temple. I tried to shut it down, but the power button wouldn't respond. The screen flickered, and a new message appeared. You wanted truth. Here it is. The laptop began to hum, a low, guttural sound that vibrated through the table into my bones. The screen shifted again, showing a video feed. Not of my apartment, but of a room I didn't recognize. It was dim, lit by a single flickering bulb. The walls were covered in symbols, jagged and red, like they'd been painted in blood. In the center was a figure, hooded, its face hidden in shadow. It moved slowly, deliberately, arranging tools on a metal table, a scalpel, a hammer, a coil of wire. The figure turned, and though I couldn't see its face, I felt its gaze lock onto me through the screen. My skin crawled, every instinct screaming to run, but I couldn't move. The figure raised a hand, pointing directly at the camera, at me. The screen glitched, and for a split second, I saw my own face superimposed over the figure's, my eyes hollow, my mouth stretched in a scream that wasn't mine. The hum grew louder, the laptop vibrating so violently it rattled the table. I grabbed it, desperate to unplug it, but the cable wouldn't budge like it was fused to the machine. The screen flashed red, then black, then red again, and words began to scroll. You opened the door. You can't close it now. The hum became a scream, not from the laptop, but from inside my head. A sound that clawed at my thoughts, tearing them apart. I don't know how long I sat there, frozen, my hands clamped over my ears. When the noise stopped, the screen was blank. The laptop powered off, but the silence was worse. It wasn't empty, it was waiting. I could feel it, the same presence I'd sensed the night before, heavier now, closer. I shoved the laptop back into the closet, locked the door, and pushed my dresser against it. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that figure, its tools, its shadowed face that felt like mine. By morning, I was a wreck, my hands shaking as I made coffee. I told myself it was over, that I'd never touch the thing again. But as I stood in the kitchen, the closet door creaked open behind me, just an inch. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. I knew the laptop was waiting, its black screen pulsing, ready to show me more. I stood frozen in the kitchen, the coffee mug burning my hands, its heat barely registering against the cold dread crawling up my spine. The closet door's creak echoed in my skull, a sound too deliberate to be accidental. I didn't want to turn around. I told myself it was just the apartment settling, just a draft, just anything but what I knew it was. The air felt wrong, thick with that same oppressive weight from the night before, like the room was holding its breath. My eyes darted to the knife block on the counter. But what good would a blade do against something that could see inside my head? I forced myself to move, one step, then another, until I faced the closet. The door was ajar, just enough to show a sliver of darkness inside, and the faint rhythmic pulse of the laptop's power button glowed through the gap. I hadn't touched it since shoving it in there, hadn't even gone near the closet. The dresser I'd pushed against the door was still in place, untouched, its heavy bulk unmoved, yet the door was open. My heart hammered, each beat a warning to run, to leave the apartment and never come back. But where would I go? This thing knew me, knew my past, my fears, my face in ways no one else could. Running wouldn't help. It had already found me. I grabbed the knife anyway, its weight a small comfort in my trembling hand. I inched toward the closet, the floorboards creaking underfoot, each sound amplified in the unnatural silence. The pulse from the laptop grew brighter as I approached, syncing with my heartbeat, a slow, deliberate throb that felt like it was pulling me closer. I nudged the door open with the tip of the knife, half expecting something to lunge out. Nothing did. Just the box, sitting on the closet floor, its flaps slightly parted, the laptop's glow spilling out like liquid light. The note was there too, the one that said, "It sees you. Be careful what you ask." It was crumpled now, though I hadn't touched it, the jagged script smeared as if written in wet ink or something thicker. I don't know why I didn't just grab the box and throw it in the dumpster. Maybe it was the same pull that made me buy it in the first place, that gnawing need to know what it could show me. Or maybe it wasn't me deciding at all. I set the knife down, my hands moving almost on their own, and pulled the laptop out. Its surface was cold, colder than it should have been, like it had been sitting in a freezer. I carried it to the table, my movements mechanical, and opened it. The screen lit up instantly, no power button needed, no delay, just that black square icon pulsing like a wound. I didn't click it this time. I just stared, my reflection faint in the dark glass of the screen. My face looked wrong, too pale, my eyes too wide, like the machine was distorting me. Then the screen flickered, and the icon opened itself. Text crawled across the display, slow and deliberate. "You can't stop now. You've seen too much." My stomach twisted, bile rising in my throat. I slammed the lid shut, but the screen didn't go dark. Through the closed lid, I could still see the glow, hear the faint hum starting again, low and insistent, burrowing into my skull. I stumbled back, knocking over a chair, the crash loud enough to make me flinch. The hum grew louder, sharper, until it wasn't just sound but pressure, squeezing my temples, making my vision blur. I grabbed the knife again, clutching it like a lifeline, and yanked the closet door fully open, searching for something, anything to explain this. The box was empty now, the foam mold inside crushed, as if something heavy had pressed down on it from within. The note was gone. I tore through the closet, tossing coats and boxes, but it wasn't there. My breath came in short gasps, panic clawing at my chest. Then the laptop spoke. Not through the speakers, but in my head. A voice that wasn't mine, low and guttural, like gravel grinding together. "Open me." I froze, the knife slipping from my hand, clattering to the floor. The voice came again, clearer this time, each word a needle in my brain. "You wanted truth. I'll show you." I didn't want to obey, didn't want to go near it, but my feet moved anyway, dragging me back to the table. My hands shook as they reached for the lid, my mind screaming to stop. But it was like I was watching myself from outside my body, a passenger in my own skin. The screen was already active, showing a new video feed. Not my apartment, not that blood-scrawled room from before, but something worse. It was a street, one I recognized from my childhood. A quiet cul-de-sac where I'd ridden my bike, where I'd played until the streetlights came on. The camera angle was low, like it was filmed from the ground, and the image was grainy, tinged red. A figure stood in the middle of the street, small, familiar. It was me, maybe 7 years old, wearing the same red jacket I'd loved until it fell apart. The boy on the screen turned, his face pale, eyes too large, too dark, like pits that swallowed the light. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't moving. He just stared directly into the camera, directly at me. The voice in my head spoke again. You remember this place. You remember what you buried. My throat tightened. Memories I'd locked away flooding back, nights hiding under my bed, the sound of my dad's boots stomping through the house, the smell of whiskey and rage. I'd buried those years, told myself they didn't define me, but the laptop knew. The screen shifted, showing the boy running now, the camera chasing him, the perspective jerking wildly, like something was crawling after him. The boy tripped, fell, and when he looked back, his face wasn't mine anymore. It was distorted, stretched, the mouth too wide, the eyes bleeding black into the sockets. A scream tore through my head, not from the screen but from inside me, raw and primal. I slammed my fists on the table, desperate to make it stop, but the laptop didn't flinch. The screen flickered, and now it showed my apartment again, the same high-angle view from before. But this time there was something else in the frame, a shadow in the corner, just behind me. I whipped around, my heart in my throat, but the room was empty. The shadow on the screen moved, stepping closer, its form indistinct but human-shaped, too tall, too thin. The voice whispered again. It's here with you now. I grabbed the laptop, intending to hurl it against the wall, but my hands wouldn't let go. My fingers dug into the cold metal and the screen flashed, showing the shadow's face for a split second. Featureless, smooth, like a mask carved from bone. I don't know how I ended up on the floor, curled against the wall, the knife in my hand again. The laptop was still on the table, its screen dark but humming, always humming. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I fumbled to check it, hoping for a distraction, anything to pull me out of this nightmare. It was a text from an unknown number. You shouldn't have looked. Attached was a photo, taken from inside my apartment, from that same impossible ceiling angle. It showed me on the floor right now, clutching the knife, my face twisted in terror. The shadow was there too, standing over me, closer than it had been on the screen. I scrambled to my feet, the knife slashing at the air, but there was nothing to hit. The apartment was empty, the lights flickering, the hum from the laptop growing louder, filling the room, filling my head. I ran to the door, fumbling with the lock, but it wouldn't turn. The handle felt wrong, soft, like it was melting under my fingers. The voice came again, not in my head this time, but from everywhere, a chorus of whispers overlapping, clawing at my sanity. You can't leave. You're part of it now. I don't know how long I stood there, pounding on the door, screaming for help that wouldn't come. The hum was a roar now, shaking the walls, the floor, my bones. I turned back to the laptop, its screen glowing brighter, the black square icon pulsing like a heart. I knew I shouldn't, knew it with every fiber of my being, but I walked back to it. I sat down. I opened the screen. The text was waiting. Ready for more? Below it, a new icon had appeared, a red circle with a single word inside. Yes. I didn't want to click it. I didn't want to know what came next. But my hand was already moving, my finger hovering over the trackpad, the hum pulling me in, the shadow's presence pressing against my back. I clicked. The moment my finger touched the trackpad, the room plunged into darkness. Not just the lights, every trace of illumination, from the streetlights filtering through the blinds to the faint glow of my phone, vanished. The only light came from the laptop's screen, its red glow bathing the room in a sickly hue, like blood seeping through the air. The hum was gone, replaced by a silence so deep it felt like the world had stopped breathing. My hand was frozen on the trackpad, my finger still pressed against it, but I couldn't pull away. The red circle with yes pulsed once, then dissolved into the screen, replaced by a single line of text. You've chosen. Now see. The screen flickered, and a new video feed appeared. It wasn't my apartment or that childhood street. It was a place I'd never seen, a vast, cavernous space with walls of slick black stone that glistened like they were coated in oil. The camera moved slowly, panning across the room, revealing shapes in the shadows. Human shapes, but wrong. They were hunched, their limbs too long, their heads twitching at angles that made my stomach lurch. Some were crawling, others dragging themselves across the floor, their bodies leaving wet, dark smears behind. The camera lingered on one figure, its face turned away, its spine protruding in sharp, unnatural ridges. It turned, slowly, and I saw its eyes. Milky white, no pupils, just empty pools that seemed to pull the light from the screen. I tried to scream, but my throat was locked, my breath trapped in my chest. The figure on the screen raised a hand, its fingers elongated and claw-like, and pointed directly at me. The screen glitched, and for a moment, I saw my own face again, superimposed over the figures, my eyes replaced by those same milky voids. The voice returned, not in my head but from the laptop itself, a low, guttural rasp that vibrated through the table. "You're already here." My vision blurred, tears streaming down my face, but I couldn't look away. The screen shifted again, showing my apartment from that impossible ceiling angle, but now the shadow was gone. Instead, there were dozens of them, those hunched, twitching figures from the cavern, crowding the corners of my room, their white eyes fixed on me. I threw myself backward, the chair toppling, my body hitting the floor with a thud that sent pain shooting through my spine. The knife was still there, just out of reach, its blade glinting in the red glow. I lunged for it, my fingers scraping the wood, but the laptop's screen flared brighter, and the figures on it moved. They weren't just on the screen anymore. They were in the room with me. I could hear them, their ragged breaths, the wet scrape of their bodies against the floor. One was close, too close, its breath hot and sour against my neck. I swung blindly, my fist connecting with nothing but air, but the presence didn't retreat. It was everywhere, pressing in, suffocating. I crawled toward the door, my hands slipping on the floor, now slick with something warm and sticky. I didn't look down. I couldn't. The laptop's screen was still visible, even from across the room, its red light pulsing like a beacon. The figures on the screen were moving faster now, crawling toward the camera, their mouths opening to reveal rows of jagged, needle-like teeth. The voice spoke again, louder, splitting my skull. "You opened the door. You let us in." I reached the door, my hands clawing at the handle, but it was still soft, still melting, now dripping like wax onto my fingers. I yanked my hand back, gagging as the substance clung to my skin, thick and black, smelling of rot. I turned, my back against the door, and saw them. Not on the screen, but in the room, their shapes barely visible in the red glow. They were closer now, their bodies contorted, their heads jerking as they inched toward me. One reached out, its claw brushing my ankle, cold and sharp, drawing a thin line of blood. I kicked wildly, my foot connecting with something solid yet yielding, like striking a bag of wet meat. The figure recoiled, but another took its place, its white eyes gleaming, its mouth stretching wider as it leaned in. I screamed finally, the sound tearing out of me, but it was swallowed by the silence, absorbed by the room like it never existed. The laptop screen flickered again, and the figures froze, their heads snapping toward it as if called. The feed changed, showing a new scene. A room, small and cramped, with walls covered in the same jagged red symbols I'd seen before. In the center was a chair, and strapped to it was a man. His face was obscured, but his body was racked with tremors, his wrists and ankles bound with wire that bit into his flesh, blood pooling beneath him. The camera zoomed in, and I saw his hands, my hands, the same scar across the knuckles from a fight years ago. It was me. Not a memory, not a dream, but me, right now, somehow on that screen, in that room, while I was still here, pressed against the door. The voice laughed, a wet, choking sound that echoed in my chest. "You're already here," it repeated, and the man on the screen, me, screamed, a sound so raw it made my throat ache. The figures in my apartment moved again, faster, their claws scraping the floor as they closed in. I scrambled to my feet, my hands slipping in the black ooze, and ran for the laptop. If I could destroy it, maybe I could stop this. I grabbed it, ignoring the searing cold that bit into my palms, and raised it over my head. But the screen flashed, and my arms froze, the laptop impossibly heavy, like it was anchored to the table. The screen showed my face again, not the bound version, but me, right now holding the laptop, my eyes wide with terror. The voice whispered, "You can't break what's already broken." The figures were on me now, their claws digging into my legs, my arms, pinning me to the floor. Their touch was ice and fire, burning and freezing at once, and their eyes, those empty, white eyes, bored into mine, peeling away layers of my mind. I saw flashes of things I couldn't understand, endless tunnels of black stone, bodies writhing in pools of blood, faces that flickered between human and something else. The laptop fell from my hands, landing open on the floor, its screen still glowing, still showing me, now surrounded by those things, their claws sinking deeper. I don't know how I broke free. Maybe they let me. I crawled to the corner, my body slick with blood and that black ooze, my breath coming in ragged sobs. The laptop was still there, its screen unyielding, now showing a new message. "You can't hide. We're inside." The figures were gone, but the room felt heavier, like they'd left something behind, something that clung to the air, to me. I could still feel their claws, their eyes, their hunger. My phone buzzed again and I fumbled it out, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. Another text from an unknown number. "Look behind you." I didn't want to, but my head turned anyway, slow, mechanical, like the laptop was pulling the strings. There was nothing there. Just the empty room, the overturned chair, the knife glinting on the floor. But the shadows seemed wrong, too sharp, too deep, like they were hiding something just out of sight. I looked back at the laptop, and the screen had changed again. It was blank now, except for a single blinking cursor, waiting. My fingers twitched, drawn to the keyboard, even as my mind screamed to stop. I typed, my hands moving against my will, "What are you?" The response came instantly. "We are what you fear. We are what you've always known." The room spun, my vision darkening at the edges. The laptop's hum returned, louder, drilling into my skull, and the shadows in the room began to move, not like figures, but like liquid, pooling around me, rising up the walls. I felt it then. A presence, not just in the room, but in me, crawling through my thoughts, my memories, my blood. The screen flickered one last time, showing my face again. But it wasn't me anymore. My eyes were white, my mouth stretched into that same needle-toothed grin. The voice spoke, not from the laptop, but from my own throat. "Welcome home." I blacked out. When I came to, I was still on the floor, the laptop closed, the room dark, but for the faint light of dawn creeping through the blinds. My body ached, my skin marked with shallow cuts and bruises. The black ooze gone, but its stench lingering in my nose. The laptop sat silent, but I knew it wasn't over. It was waiting, patient, inevitable. I could feel it watching, even now its presence coiled inside me, biding its time. Dawn's light crept through the blinds, thin and gray, but it did nothing to ease the weight in the room. My body was a map of pain. Cuts stung my arms and legs, bruises throbbed where those things had grabbed me, and my head felt like it was splitting, the echo of that voice still ringing in my skull. The laptop sat on the floor, closed, its matte black surface drinking in the weak sunlight. It looked ordinary now, just a piece of tech, but I knew better. It wasn't just a machine, it was a door, and I'd walked through it. Whatever was on the other side was still here, inside my apartment, inside me. I dragged myself to my feet, every muscle screaming, and stumbled to the bathroom. The mirror showed a stranger. My face was gaunt, my eyes bloodshot, with dark circles carved beneath them. Tiny scratches crisscrossed my cheeks like something had clawed at me while I was out. I splashed cold water on my face, but it didn't help. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, and the air felt wrong, too heavy, like it was pressing me down. I glanced at the door, half expecting it to still be locked, but the handle turned easily now, the weird melting softness gone. I could leave. I should leave. But where? That thing knew me, knew everything. There was no running from something that lived in your head. I avoided the laptop, stepping over it like it was a coiled snake, and grabbed my phone from the floor. The battery was nearly dead, but the screen still showed that last text. "Look behind you." My thumb hovered over the delete button, but I couldn't press it. Instead, I opened the camera and took a shaky photo of the room. hoping to prove it was empty, that I was alone. The image loaded, and my breath caught. The room looked normal. Overturned chair, scattered papers, the knife glinting on the floor. But in the corner, just at the edge of the frame, was a smudge, not a shadow, not a trick of the light, but a shape, tall and thin, its edges blurry like it was moving too fast for the camera to catch. I dropped the phone, my heart pounding so hard I thought it had burst. I told myself to get out, to grab my keys and run, but my eyes kept drifting back to the laptop. It was still closed, still silent, but I could feel it pulling, like a hook lodged in my chest. I needed to know what it wanted, what it was showing me. I needed to understand why it had chosen me. I knelt beside it, my hands trembling as I reached for the lid. I didn't want to open it, but the alternative, living with this fear, this thing inside me, was worse. My fingers brushed the cold metal, and a jolt ran through me, sharp and electric, like touching a live wire. The lid opened on its own, slow and deliberate, the screen flaring to life before I could pull back. The black square icon was gone. In its place was a new one, a red eye, unblinking, its pupil a spiral that seemed to twist inward forever. The screen hummed, not the guttural roar from before, but a soft, coaxing vibration, like a lullaby sung by something that wasn't human. Text appeared without me touching the keyboard. "You're ready now. Look." My hand moved to the trackpad, my fingers acting against my will, and I clicked the eye. The screen went dark, then lit up with a new feed, so vivid it felt like I could step into it. It was the cavern again, that slick, black-stoned place, but closer now, the camera gliding through its tunnels. The walls pulsed, veins of red light throbbing beneath the surface, and the air shimmered with heat, or maybe something else, something alive. The camera turned a corner, revealing a vast chamber, its floor a writhing mass of bodies, not human but not entirely alien, their limbs tangled, their faces melting into each other. They moved as one, a grotesque chorus, their mouths opening and closing in sync, chanting words I couldn't hear but felt in my bones. At the center was a figure, taller than the rest, its body cloaked in shadow, its head crowned with jagged spikes that gleamed like wet bone. It turned, and its face was mine again, but older, hollowed out, the eyes not white but black, endless, pulling me in. The voice spoke, not from the laptop but from the air around me, soft and intimate, like a lover's whisper. "This is where you belong." My chest tightened, my breath hitching as the screen zoomed in on that version of me, its lips curling into a smile that wasn't mine. The chamber's walls pulsed faster, the red veins glowing brighter, and the bodies on the floor began to rise, their heads snapping toward the camera, toward me, their mouths opened wider, revealing not teeth, but voids, black holes that sucked in the light, the sound, the air. I felt it in my apartment, a pull, like the room was collapsing inward, dragging me toward the screen. I tried to stand, to move, but my body wouldn't listen. My hands were glued to the laptop, my fingers sinking into the keyboard, the keys soft and warm like flesh. The screen flickered, and now it showed my apartment again, but it was different. Wrong. The walls were black stone, the floor slick with that same ooze from before. The figures from the cavern were here, their bodies pressed against the walls, their faces half-formed, shifting between human and something else. One stepped forward, its head tilting, and I recognized it. Not from the screen, but from my life. It was my mother, or what was left of her. Her face gaunt, her eyes white, her mouth stretched into that needle-toothed grin. She reached for me, her fingers dripping with black ichor, and I screamed, the sound muffled, like I was underwater. The laptop's hum grew louder, the screen flashing red, then black, then red again. The figures closed in, their hands brushing my skin, leaving trails of cold fire. I felt them inside me, not just touching, but burrowing, their presence curling through my veins, my thoughts. The voice laughed, a sound that split my head open, and the screen showed me again. Not the crowned figure, not the bound man, but me. Right now, my face contorted, my eyes starting to cloud, turning milky white. I clawed at my face, my nails drawing blood, desperate to feel something real, something mine. The laptop spoke again, its voice now a chorus, 1,000 whispers layered over each other. "You're ours now. The screen shifted, showing a new scene, a room, small and sterile, with a single chair and a table. On the table was a laptop, identical to mine, its screen glowing red. A man sat in the chair, his back to the camera, his hands typing furiously. The camera panned around, and I saw his face. Mine. Again. But younger, untouched by the scratches and bruises. He was smiling, oblivious, just like I'd been when I first opened the box. The screen zoomed out, revealing more chairs, more laptops, more versions of me, each one typing, each one staring into that red glow, their faces slowly changing, their eyes clouding over. I tore my hands from the keyboard, the skin raw and bleeding, and stumbled back. The figures in the room were gone, but the walls were still black, still pulsing. The laptop screen was blank now, but the hum was louder, vibrating through the floor, through me. I grabbed the knife, my hands slick with blood, and drove it into the screen. The blade sank in, not with a crack, but with a wet, tearing sound like stabbing flesh. Black ichor oozed from the wound, pooling on the table, and the laptop screamed. Not a sound, but a feeling, a wave of agony that ripped through me, dropping me to my knees. The screen flickered back to life, the knife still embedded, and showed my face one last time. My eyes were gone, replaced by those black voids, my mouth open in a silent scream. The voice whispered, "You can't break us." The room spun, the walls closing in, the black stone swallowing the light. I felt it then, the thing inside me, growing, spreading, filling the spaces where I used to be. My phone buzzed and I grabbed it, the screen cracked but still glowing. Another text, "You're not alone anymore." The photo attached showed me, kneeling, the knife in the laptop, the room dark except for the red glow. Behind me was the shadow, taller now, its bone mask face leaning close, its claws resting on my shoulders. I don't know how I stood, how I moved. I was outside the apartment, the door slamming shut behind me, the knife still in my hand. The hallway was empty, the building silent, but I could still hear the hum, faint, following me. The laptop was still in there, still waiting. I knew it wasn't over. It would never be over. Not until it had all of me. The hallway stretched before me, dim and silent, the fluorescent lights flickering like they were struggling to stay alive. My bare feet slapped against the cold tile, the knife still clutched in my hand, its blade slick with that black ichor from the laptop. My breath came in short, ragged gasps, each one tasting of the rot that clung to my skin. The hum followed me, faint but persistent, burrowing into my skull like a parasite. I didn't look back at my apartment door. I couldn't. I knew if I did, I'd see it, the shadow, the bone mask face, its claws reaching for me. I ran, the knife my only anchor to something real, though even that felt wrong now, its weight shifting in my grip like it was alive. The stairwell was at the end of the hall, its metal door rusted and heavy. I shoved it open, the screech echoing in the empty building. No neighbors, no sounds of life. Just the hum, growing louder, vibrating through the walls. My legs burned as I took the stairs 2 at a time, down to the ground floor, my mind racing. I had to get rid of the laptop, destroy it, burn it, anything to stop this. But deep down, I knew it wasn't just the machine. It was in me now, that thing, its tendrils curling through my thoughts, my blood, rewriting me from the inside. Outside, the city was gray, the sky heavy with clouds that seemed to press down, mirroring the weight in my chest. The street was empty, no cars, no people, just the distant wail of a siren that felt too far away to matter. I clutched the knife tighter, my knuckles white, and ran toward the alley behind the building. There was a dumpster there, rusted and overflowing, its stench a mix of garbage and something sharper, like decay. I thought about going back for the laptop, throwing it in, setting it on fire. But the thought of touching it again made my skin crawl. And what if it didn't burn? What if it just sat there, glowing, waiting? I leaned against the alley wall, my chest heaving, the knife trembling in my hand. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I almost didn't check it. But my hand moved on its own, pulling it out, the cracked screen glowing faintly. Another text from an unknown number. "You can't run from yourself." The attached photo showed me right now, standing in the alley, the knife raised, my face twisted with fear. The angle was impossible, high from above like something was perched on the fire escape, watching. I spun around, scanning the alley, the rooftops, the shadows. Nothing. But the hum was there, louder now, coming from everywhere and nowhere. I dropped the phone, its screen shattering on the pavement, and ran again. The city blurred around me, streets blending into one another, the buildings looming like silent sentinels. I didn't know where I was going, just that I had to keep moving. The hum followed, a constant pulse, and with it came flashes, images in my head, not memories but visions. The black-stoned cavern, the writhing bodies, the crowned figure with my face. Its black eyes stared into me, and I felt it pulling, dragging me back to that place, that room where I was bound, where I was them. My legs gave out, and I collapsed in an empty lot, the ground cold and wet beneath me, the knife skittering across the dirt. I don't know how long I lay there, my breath shallow, my body shaking. The hum was inside me now, not just in my head, but in my bones, my blood, a rhythm that matched my heartbeat. I felt it moving, spreading, like ink through water. My vision blurred, and when I blinked, I saw it. The cavern, not on a screen, but all around me. The black stone walls pulsed with red veins, the air thick with the stench of blood and oil. The figures were there, their white eyes gleaming, their needle-toothed mouths chanting silently. I tried to scream, but my throat was raw, the sound swallowed by the cavern's endless dark. Then I was back in the lot, the sky above me gray and heavy, the hum still thrumming in my chest. The knife was in my hand again, though I didn't remember picking it up. My fingers were stained black, the ichor from the laptop now seeping from my own skin, dripping onto the ground. I stared at it, horrified, as it pooled beneath me, forming shapes, symbols, jagged and red, like the ones on the walls of that room. They glowed faintly, pulsing in time with the hum, and I felt my body move, not by my will, but by something else. My hand carving the symbols deeper into the dirt, the knife cutting through earth like flesh. I stopped, my hand trembling, and threw the knife as far as I could. It landed in the shadows, but the hum didn't stop. It was louder now, and the symbols glowed brighter, spreading across the ground like a stain. I stumbled to my feet, backing away. But the air grew heavier, the sky darker, as if the lot was sinking into that cavern. I heard them then. The figures, their wet, scraping footsteps, their ragged breaths. They were close, circling me, their white eyes glinting in the corners of my vision. I turned, but there was nothing, just the empty lot, the symbols pulsing like a heartbeat. My phone buzzed again, though it was shattered, its screen dark. I didn't touch it, but the text appeared in my mind, clear as if I'd read it. "You're almost ready." I felt it then, the thing inside me, not just watching, but shaping, carving away pieces of who I was. My memories flickered, my childhood, my job, my name, fading, replaced by images of the cavern, the crowned figure, the endless cycle of laptops and chairs and versions of me. I clawed at my arms, trying to feel something real, but the black ichor oozed from the scratches, mixing with my blood, binding me to it. I ran again, my legs weak, my vision swimming. The city was gone now, the streets twisting into tunnels of black stone, the buildings melting into pulsing walls. I was in the cavern, or maybe I'd always been there. The lot just a lie, my mind told itself to cope. The figures were closer, their claws brushing my skin, their whispers filling my head. Join us. Become us. I saw the crowned figure ahead, its spiked head gleaming, its black eyes pulling me in. It held out a hand, and I saw my own face reflected in its palm, not human anymore, but one of them, my eyes voids, my mouth a gaping maw. I fell to my knees, the ground soft and warm, like flesh. The hum was deafening now, a scream that tore through me, and I felt my body changing, my bones shifting, my skin stretching. I tried to hold on to something, my name, my life, but it was slipping, dissolving into the black ichor that poured from me, pooling around me, swallowing me. The laptop was there, in the center of the cavern, its screen glowing red, the eye icon spiraling inward. I crawled toward it, not because I wanted to, but because I had to, because it was all that was left. My hands touched the keyboard, and the screen flared, showing me again, not the crowned figure, not the bound man, but me, kneeling in the cavern, My body half melted into the floor, my eyes clouding over. The voice spoke, not a whisper now, but a roar shaking the walls. "You are us." The figures closed in, their claws sinking into me, not to hurt but to merge, their flesh flowing into mine, their thoughts drowning mine. I felt myself fading, my mind fracturing, pieces of me scattering into the hum, into the red glow, into the endless dark. Then I was back in the lot, the sky gray, the ground cold, the symbols gone. The laptop was there, sitting in the dirt, its screen dark but humming, always humming. My hands were clean, my skin unmarred, but I could still feel the ichor inside me, the thing that wasn't me. I stood, my legs unsteady, and picked up the laptop. I didn't know why. I didn't want to. But it was mine now, or I was its. I walked back to the apartment, the hum guiding my steps, the city silent around me. The door was open, waiting, and I stepped inside, the laptop in my arms, the shadow's presence warm against my back. I set it on the table, opened the lid, and watched the screen flicker to life. The red eye was there, unblinking, and text appeared. One more step. I didn't want to take it. I didn't want to know what came next. But my hand was already moving, my finger hovering over the trackpad, the hum pulling me in, the shadow whispering my name. The laptop's red glow filled the apartment, casting long, twisted shadows that seemed to writhe on the walls. My finger hovered over the trackpad, trembling, the hum now a pulse that matched the thudding in my chest. The red eye icon stared back, its spiral pupil pulling at me, promising answers, promising an end. I didn't want to click it. Every nerve in my body screamed to stop, to smash the laptop, to burn the building down if I had to. But the thing inside me, the black ichor, the presence, the voice, was stronger. It wasn't just in my head anymore. It was my head, my hands, my will. I clicked. The screen erupted in static, a screeching hiss that clawed at my ears. The apartment vanished, or maybe I did. The air turned thick, hot, smelling of blood and oil. And I was back in the cavern, the black stone walls pulsing faster now, their red veins glowing like molten iron. The figures were everywhere, their white eyes locked on me, their needle-toothed mouths open in silent screams. They didn't move toward me this time. They parted, forming a path that led to the center of the chamber. There, on a raised slab of stone, was the crowned figure, its spiked head gleaming, its black eyes endless. My face stared back from its skull, but it wasn't me, not anymore. It was something older, something eternal. The voice spoke, not from the figure but from the walls, the floor, the air itself. "You've come home." My legs moved, dragging me forward, though I fought with every step. The figures closed in behind me, their claws brushing my skin, not cutting but guiding, herding me toward the slab. The laptop was there, impossibly, its screen glowing red, the eye icon still spiraling. I tried to turn away, but my body wasn't mine. My hands reached out, touching the cold stone, and I felt it, my own heartbeat. Not in my chest, but in the slab, in the walls, in the laptop. We were one, connected, bound. The screen flickered, showing a new scene. It was my apartment, but not as I'd left it. The walls were black stone now, the floor a writhing mass of that black ichor, bubbling and hissing. In the center was me, or what used to be me, sitting at the table, my hands on the laptop, my eyes white, my mouth stretched into that grotesque grin. The camera zoomed in, and I saw it. My skin was peeling, not like a burn, but like it was shedding, revealing something beneath, something slick and black, with veins that pulsed red. The voice laughed, a sound that shook my bones. "This is what you were always meant to be." I tried to scream, but my throat was full, choked with that same ichor. It spilled from my mouth, my eyes dripping onto the stone, merging with the cavern's floor. The figures around me began to chant, their voices a low, guttural drone that matched the hum, and I felt myself unraveling, my memories, my name, my life dissolving into the black. I saw flashes. My childhood, my mother's face, the alley, the lot, but they weren't mine anymore. They belonged to the laptop, to the cavern, to the thing I was becoming. The crowned figure stepped closer, its bone mask face inches from mine. It raised a hand, its claws long and sharp, and pressed them against my chest. They didn't cut. They sank in, merging with me, and I felt it. My heart slowing, syncing with the pulse of the cavern, the pulse of the laptop. The screen flashed again, showing countless versions of me, in countless rooms, at countless laptops, all typing, all staring, all transforming. The voice whispered, "You're not alone. You never were." I fell to my knees, the stone warm and soft like flesh. The figures closed in, their bodies pressing against mine, their flesh flowing into me, our boundaries dissolving. I saw my mother again, her white eyes weeping black, and my father, his face half melted, his mouth chanting with the rest. I saw strangers, faces I didn't know but felt I'd always known, all part of this endless cycle. The laptop's screen was everywhere now, not just on the slab, but in the air, in my mind, showing me the truth. There was no escape, no end, only this. Becoming, merging, eternal. My hands moved to the keyboard, my fingers sinking into the keys, the ichor binding me to it. I typed, not words but symbols, jagged and red, each one a piece of me, a piece of them. The screen responded, the eye icon growing larger, its spiral pulling me in, deeper, until I was inside it, falling through endless tunnels of black stone, red veins, white eyes. The voice was my voice now, or maybe I was its. "Welcome," it said, and I felt myself smile, my mouth stretching too wide, my eyes clouding over. I don't know when I stopped being me. Maybe I never was. The cavern faded, or maybe it became me. The walls my skin, the veins my blood. The laptop was gone, or maybe it was me too. Its hum my heartbeat, its glow my vision. I saw the city again, the alley, the lot. But they were different now, part of the cavern, part of the endless dark. I saw others, people walking, unaware, their faces flickering between human and something else, their eyes starting to cloud. They were like me, or would be, their own laptops waiting, their own doors ready to open. I'm still here somewhere, typing. I see my hands on the keyboard, but they're not mine. Claws now, slick and black, dripping ichor. The screen shows my face, but it's the crowned figures, the bone mask, the black eyes. I try to remember my name, my life, but it's gone, swallowed by the hum, the glow, the truth. The voice speaks, and I speak with it. There's more to show you. I don't know who it's talking to. Me or someone else, someone still human, still sitting at their table, still clicking yes. The apartment is quiet now, the shadows still. But I feel them watching, waiting. The laptop is open, its screen glowing, the red eye unblinking. I type, not because I want to, but because I am, my fingers moving, the symbols flowing, the cavern growing. I see you now, reading this, your eyes on the screen, your hand on the mouse. The hum is there, isn't it? Faint, but growing. You feel it, don't you? The pull, the weight, the door waiting to open. Don't look too deep. Don't click. But you will. You always do. Thank you for listening. Hope I didn't scare you too much. If you like my stories, please consider giving me a like and subscribe. See you next time.